Hello, this is Bacon Bits of History back again with another episode of Campfire Cooking. Now today we're going to do something a little different for our campfire cooking. What we're going to do today is instead of cooking our old-fashioned, old-timey meal, we're going to cook with a little bit of a modern twist. What we're going to cook today is going to be made out of ingredients you could find in your modern pantry. Just to show you that it doesn't always have to be old-timey, fresh, perfect, foraged ingredients for campfire cooking. So let's get down to it. So our first step, of course, is getting the fire going. However, fire starting is a topic for another video. Our first step for now is going to be greasing our pan. And here we go. We're going to use just a little bit of butter to grease our pan. And we're going to use the same butter for cooking in a little bit later. And what we're going to cook today is we're going to cook just a little bit of, we're going to cook some roast beef, some mushrooms with some green pepper, and some mashed potatoes and gravy. Thought I'd also make a cornbread, and I thought we'd try out one of these cakes that everyone can find in the store. I know they're really popular with a certain crowd of single-size mug serving cakes that you can bake in your microwave. We're going to try one on our campfire, see how it goes. Alright, pan greased. Now we got to slice our onion, get our onion starting to caramelize. We have to drain our mushrooms, and these are of course hand-foraged mushrooms straight from the can. There's all sorts of tricks to not tear up when you're trimming an onion. There's all sorts of little tricks. Some people chew gum, some people cut them underwater. Generally, I find it's best to just get on with it. So some tears may well up in your eyes. That's what happens, and it's worth it. Successfully peeled. Peelings went straight to the compost pile. Let's cut it up. Now, I'm not going to cut it up into super tiny chunks because I like onions in big chunks. So we'll probably put it into about quarters. And we'll have this one decided to go in just as is. And that's the key part about cooking. You have to get comfortable to the point where you're willing to experiment and do things slightly different from pure orthodoxy. And wish out to have a nice snack of an onion while you're doing it. Alright, next thing, cut up our green pepper. Now, if you say backcountry camping or car camping, these are both things you can just sort of pack in. Single green pepper isn't very hard to come by. It's not some mystical part of morel mushrooms or only able to forage during a certain season. You cut it up. You can cut it up whatever size you like. Alright, let's add in some of our mushrooms. And before we add them in, we're going to drain them. And we'll just drain our water right out here. I'm sure the flying squirrels will be very happy that there's some nice mushroom juice out here. That's pretty good. Here's our can. And by using these canned mushrooms, you've solved the problem with most people misidentifying mushrooms. Alright. here are our veggies ready to go on. I'm going to just mix them in a little bit. Then I'm going to throw them right on our little brazier. Alright, here we go. Alright, looks like we got a nice heat just about right. We'll let those start to fry up. Our next thing is to get some water for our mashed potatoes going. So let me put our camping cooking tripod over our fire. Alright, so we're going to get our water boiling up for our mashed potatoes. We're not going to use this as my drinking water. I brought out special water. However, if you are cooking over a campfire, you can use your own water. You can even probably use some water that you find, but you're definitely going to want to be careful to make sure you boil it, because you don't want to end up like certain Jamestown colonists who got things completely wrong and died because they didn't boil their water. So we're going to put our water in our big Dutch oven here. We're going to hang it and get our water going. It's a very difficult process, pouring water into the Dutch oven to get our water boiling. Now, very similar process for stock or stew. We're going to hang it and hopefully not spill it. That looks pretty decent. So cover that up, let it boil. There we go. Just right. Alright, let's take a look at how our veggies are doing. Can you hear that sizzle? Alright, so I think it's just about time to start our bread going. We're going to have some cornbread with this. Alright, so we're going to start our cornbread. First thing up, same as usual, oil the pan. Might as well oil the pan for our dessert as well while we're at it. Or more accurately, butter the pan. Alright. For our cornbread, we're going to use a Jiffy cornbread mix. If I'm remembering right, it requires 1 egg and 1/3 a cup of milk. So let me get an egg out of my handy dandy egg storage device here. Move our other egg out of here for safety. Alright, and then we need 1/3 cup of milk, which is right here. Alright, so this is a nice handy dandy little box. I think you can get them for less than 60 cents. And we're just going to push it here. And as you can hear, there's a quite unhappy blue jay, it sounds like, behind us. Alright, let's get her mixing. Got it's mixed, I'm going to check on our water, see how it's doing, that our water had boiled up. Oh yeah. Just right. Let's take that off. Grab both of them just to be safe. And we're going to stick that under there because the pan will keep it hot for a little while. And because we're going to use this right here. Right. Let's put this into our pan. We're going to make a cornbread loaf. Let's switch hands here, make things easier. All right. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use our kettle. We're going to put this in our kettle. I feel like a little cornbread might end up in your beard. We're going to put this lid on upside down because we need to put coals on the top to get an even heat. Add a few coals onto the top. Thinking 5 coals. Probably would have been better to use the tongs. Right, so it's now time to add our meat. We're going to open our can with our handy dandy Pope Peel pocket can opener. Straight from Ralph Cramden. And we're going to do something a lot of people may not do, is we're going to save the juice because we're going to use this juice for our gravy. All right. All right. There we go. And find my fork. Oh well, there it is. Alright, let's take off the cornbread, let it sit in the coals, get it heated up a little bit. Alright, looks like our veggies and meat is done, so I'm going to take that off. Oh yeah, that's ready. Alright, we're going to dish the meat up into our bowl so that we can make our gravy. bad. Alright, so we're going to use the same pan that we made that in to make our gravy. Alright. First thing, we're going to use our meat juice. Alright. The secret to gravy is constant stirring. Alright, so let's put this on top of this pot so that it'll stay nice and warm. And let's get to the mashed potatoes. Alright, let's get our mashed potatoes going. Alright, water looks decent. That looks like a good amount. Now, we're just going to use our basic boxed mashed potatoes that anybody can make. I think the most difficult part with these is getting into the box. Alright, so I generally don't measure with these and just sort of dump. So I think it's about equal parts water, equal parts mashed potatoes. We'll see how it comes out. That looks pretty good. Alright, mix them up. You might need just a tiny bit more water. What do you think, more water? And the best part is, if you look down in the kettle, we have extra water to wash all the dishes. Alright. This looks just about right. Let me get my favorite tool. Alright, it looks like they're done, which means it's time to eat. Before we eat, we're going to get our cake going so we can enjoy the cake after. Alright, so I took off the gravy, got the meat off, got the mashed potatoes off. Let's take a look at the cornbread. Not too bad. Got a nice couple holes in there from when I tested it with a fork. Don't know if it'll crumble, since that's our signature cornbread crumble. Put that right there, because we're going to reuse that for our cake. Now, let me whip up this cake. This is yellow cake. Now, yellow cake, simple mix. Not the kind that Saddam Hussein was in trouble for. Alright, I think it needs an egg and some water and a little bit of butter. Put our egg in first. We'll put some of our water in. Alright, quarter cup of water. And then some butter. There we go. Alright, now we mix. Hope you got that. Alright, it's pretty good. It's going to go in here. There we go. And then that, we're going to cover up, and we're going to put in our coals so it can cook while we go eat dinner. And then comes the hardest part, setting the table without me eating all the gravy. There we go. Now, we let it sit, and we go cook. Now we let it sit for a while, bake, we go eat. All served up, all cooked, ready to eat, and it looks good. Let's give it a shot. Alright, so let's check on that cake. Now, I think the best way to check a cake is to make a small little incision. I'm just going to use my trusty little knife here. And if you see that the cake is sticking to it, then it's not ready. Well, it looks like it's ready here. I think we're all set. Now let's mix up some of the icing for the cake. Now, this is a pretty simple frosting icing mixture. It requires a little bit, doesn't require much, just a tiny bit of water, but it requires some pretty heavy beating. And it'd be easier to do this with a mixer, but let's see what we can get here. This one you really have to mix hard and really beat. Now it's time to frost the cake with our made frosting. Alright, so here's our cake. I put a little frosting on earlier, melted it in there. Let's finish her up. As you can see, it looks just like Betty Crocker. Because we're losing the light, I'm going to say that that's good, so we can dig into our cake. And I'm going to eat the rest of this. Until next time, I'm baking bits of history.